Hey there, sports fans. It's Nathan, your host for another salty serving of youth baseball on the Salty Sports Podcast.
Hey, Arkansas. Looking for reliable insurance? Donnell Insurance has been serving our community since 1982. Whether it's auto, home, business, or life insurance, they've got you covered. Call them today at 501-315-3118 or visit their website, DonnellInsuranceAgency.com, to learn more. Protect what matters most with Donnell Insurance.
All right, we have Kyle Bryant here. The reason I think Kyle would be important to the podcast is he started off as a youth league coach. I don't even think he started when he was young, like 5 or 6. I think his kid was probably 7 or 8, 9 when he got started as a youth league coach. Then he went into being a local travel team coach. After a couple of years there, he moved into a facility, or his son moved into a facility, and he became like assistant coach on a facility team. Then his son went to a national team, played some big time tournaments with big time kids, and now his son's starting his high school career. So he's also got a younger son too. He's just now starting off with. But what we've seen what I think Kyle's important is he's a coach who, I don't think Kyle, you had a great playing career. Is that fair to say?
It's really fair to say. Honestly, didn't play past 8 years old as a player. So, yeah, I didn't have a very long career in baseball myself.
So I think a lot of coaches like that. They kind of get pushed into it, and then all of a sudden, they're good with kids, they're helpful, and now they've got to be the decision maker for a lot of things. And you've navigated that for, I guess, the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years. Probably been a huge part of your life over that time too.
Yeah, for the most part of my oldest stepson's baseball career, I've either coached or been an assistant coach, or I've been on the field of some sort of way. But yeah, I kind of just got pushed into it at an early age with him, because there wasn't enough coaches.
Yeah,
Kind of just volunteered myself and learned as I go. A lot
yeah,
of trial and error, a lot of errors. I'll tell you that much. But yeah, it's been an adventure. It's been a journey. Now, like you said, I get to start over with my youngest one. We're at 7 now, and so yeah, we'll take the mistakes from the first time and see what happens for the second time.
yeah. I played up until college, and I feel like I had a good foundation when I started. But man, even in my coaching, like I've learned so much in the last 10 years of doing this. So I totally agree with what you're saying. So first thing I want to do is I've got the salty quick pitch I want to give you. So these are just a series of questions I'm giving you, so the audience gets to know you. So we're gonna get started with that. You ready?
Okay. Yeah, let's go.
All right. Favorite baseball team?
Kansas City Royals.
Favorite player?
Griffey Jr.
Okay, not a Royal, but we'll take it.
Yeah.
Favorite hobby outside of baseball?
Dirt track racing. I used to do that.
Huh, never would have guessed. All right, favorite movie?
Moneyball.
Good one. Favorite TV show or series?
Suits.
I like Suits.
It's a good
Favorite
one.
music? Favorite music artist or band?
Ah, that's tough. Of all time, mine is Breaking Benjamin, but of recent, it's Tyler Childers. My taste has changed quite a bit.
There you go. All right, favorite song?
Um, Diary of Jane, Breaking Benjamin.
Okay. Ideal vacation spot?
It's got to be the beach. We go every year. That's my relaxation time.
Yeah.
Didn't play a whole lot of college sports.
Okay. What's your favorite baseball memory? Either watching the Royals, watching your kids, or a playing day you had back in the day.
Favorite memory would probably be um, watching my kid play at the spring training complex for the Nationals this past summer actually, or last fall. Sorry, last
Yeah.
fall. That was pretty cool. Your son was there with him, and I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
they told us stories where they were using the dugout phones to talk back and forth, which was really cool. But that's just a unique experience. But getting to sit in that stadium and watch our kids play,
Yeah.
and somewhere where the best players in the world play is
Yeah.
just something you don't get to experience as a parent uh, very often.
Yeah, I would agree with that too. All right, who influences your thoughts on baseball?
Lots of people. You're one of them because we talk a lot, just baseball in general.
Yeah.
Um, uh, Ron Polk,
Mm,
his book. I think he's one of the greatest coaches of college baseball.
right. Yeah.
Um, believe it or not, I guess you call me a internet coach, YouTube coach, whatever you want to call it. But there's a lot of good information out there. Tread Athletics and 108
Yeah.
Performance. They just put out a lot of good things when it comes to pitching. I've kind of been a student of the pitching stuff in the last year or two since it's more prominent for my oldest. And so, yeah, there's
Well,
just a
good.
lot
Yeah.
of different good stuff.
Yeah, I want to talk to you about some more arm care stuff later on. But okay,
Yep.
so best advice to young athletes or coaches?
Young athletes, play as much as you can every day. Uh, don't, even if it's just 5 or 10 minutes a day, it's better than nothing. And for coaches, make it fun. For youth athletes, you're winning if they come back the next year and play.
Yeah,
I,
really
I
good.
think I think a lot of kids who don't come back and play is because they had a bad experience. Um, I'm not going to put the full blame on coaches because there's a lot of variables in youth sports in general. Uh, but if you can make that kid come back and play the next year and sign up and play, I think you're winning as a coach. But there's a lot more to coaching than that. But
Yeah.
just in general, just the general census, I think that's the biggest part.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. All right, last book you read.
Baseball, Ron Polk.
Favorite quote?
Give up is probably my biggest one that I tell all my kids because baseball is adversity. It's a roller coaster of emotions and trial and errors, but never give up. I mean, that's
Yeah.
probably the three biggest words I can tell you.
Yeah. All right, what favorite drill?
Aussies, infield work with Aussies. I think glove work is it's not a dying thing, but the guys who have elite gloves, you notice more than others.
Yeah.
We notice as we progress from when we played as kids to now, the game is faster. I mean, all sports are faster. It's
Yeah.
athletes are different, but um, the thing I've been learning a lot more this past year is more of flow instead of making kids look like robots. Like this is the way
Mm,
you've got to do it all the time. It's more of a what's natural. To me, if you let a kid move in his natural ability, then he picks that up easier and faster. And making a play is making a play. It don't have to be pretty, but if you make a play, you make a play.
Yeah. I coach catchers a lot, and there's a great technique to blocking, and you want to be in a good, perfect position. But really, at the end of the day, if you stop that ball from going to the backstop, a lot of times you did your job. And
That's it.
pretty or not, uh, you did your job. So yeah, what you're saying there. All right, moving along. Favorite coaching tool or resource?
I got to go back to the baseball playbook by Ron Polk. It's a thick book. It's a big book. I highly suggest it to a lot of people.
Yeah.
It's more advanced. If you're new to coaching, it can be over your head a little bit because it's basically a full deal for upper level baseball, college baseball. But as you progress in a coaching standpoint, you will understand a lot more of it. Yeah, it's a good read. Actually, I've seen your book that you put out there. It's on Amazon. Little plug in for you
Well,
by the way. I've seen it out there. I've looked through it. It's great for youth baseball. It's got a lot of documents and a lot of templates for practice plans and that sort of thing. But the baseball playbook around Polk's probably my favorite one.
I got you. All right, what's something you used to believe, but now you think you're wrong?
Um, So this is a big thing. We've talked about it numerous times. Pitch counts on youth athletes. Every kid's different. Some kid needs to have a pitch count of 40, and some kids need to have a pitch count of 100. It all depends on each kid's ability, each kid's arm care program. I mean, there's so many variables into why pitch counts matter. Now, of course, you see the tournament directors that have standards or suggestions, I guess, in a sense, but then you also have true pitch count. Like, you can't go pitch count no matter what happens.
Yeah.
And I believe in some of it, and some of it's like, that kid can throw 120 pitches. I've seen it. I've watched it. And this kid here, Johnny doesn't need to throw past 40 in a weekend.
Yeah.
I used to believe pitch counts mattered. This kid's we're not throwing any kid over 60. But now it's like, well, it depends. 60 is too much for a kid, and 60 is nothing for some kids. So
yeah,
I think pitch counts are such a vague recommendation because it's all athlete specific.
Yeah, I agree with you too. All right, what's something you believe that others think is crazy?
It don't pertain to the youth sports as much as it does to the pros. I think the pitch count, or not the pitch count, the pitch play clock, I guess, in a sense. I think that takes away from the game a little bit. I'm big on picks. I'm big on easy outs and trying to get yourself out of jams with picks and back picks and that kind of thing. I'm not a fan of the pitch clock. I think that's kind of a crazy thing. Now, don't get me wrong, it shortens the game and allows more people to want to watch a game. But I like the 3.5 hour games. It don't bother me. I can sit and watch baseball all day. So.
Okay. All right. Next section, we have a word association. So I'm gonna give you just one or two words, and you give me a one or two word response. First one is rec baseball.
Relaxed. I'll go with relaxed.
Volunteer coaches.
Much needed.
Okay. Travel ball.
Ooh. I'm going to get some hate on this, but overrated.
All right. Nice to dive into that one.
Yeah.
All right. Practices.
More the merrier.
Okay. I like it. Old school versus new school.
I'm old school.
Okay. Technology.
Technology is crucial now. I'm going to go with crucial.
I like it. All right. Last one. Dad coaches.
Gotta have them. Gotta have dad coaches in youth baseball.
All right. Well, good answers there. Go back to a couple things. Travel ball, overrated. And one of the questions I'm going to ask you, like you've kind of seen it all. You've gone to the we around here we say travel ball. We mean you're going to play about an hour away on the weekends.
Right.
It's not a hotel kind of travel ball. It's you go drive about 45 minutes, play about 2 games, drive back up the next day and play one single elimination bracket. And then when you get older, or really you can do it anytime, but you got the travel ball where you're going to Atlanta, going to Hoover, going to Dallas, going to Houston, and spending the weekend there. So you said overrated was your word for travel ball. So let's dive into that a second.
All right. So travel ball, I hate saying it this way, and I'll catch grief, but this is just my belief. Travel ball has become more or less a newer style rec ball. Because I'm old school. To me, from what I believe sports was, if you played travel ball or AAU basketball or elite football, you were the elite kids of an area. You got hand selected, you tried out, but you were handpicked. Nowadays, if you want to sign up to play travel ball, you can sign up to play travel ball. You can play travel ball at many different places. And it's not bad. I think it's a good thing. I think a lot of that's accrued to not enough volunteer coaches or good volunteer coaches in the rec area. Um, I said I've learned a lot. My journey as a coach, I wasn't prepared for travel ball early on, and it showed.
Yeah.
Um, I know I didn't really learn a lot from what good travel ball really consists of until I sat on a bucket as an assistant coach next to a guy who, played college baseball and was a really good coach, a really good teacher of the game.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
where I learned. That's when I learned the most for 2 years, sitting on a bucket next to a guy. Was
Yep.
literally a warm body. I was a warm body who just threw a lot of BP, a lot of soft toss, hit a lot of ground balls, a lot of fly balls, but didn't coach
Yeah.
as like I do now. But um, just learning different techniques, different situations and scenarios. When's the right time to say something? How should you say it? Um, Another big thing with youth coaches is learning how to communicate with umpires. And that's a whole nother segment I know
Yeah.
you can get into, but learning how to communicate with umpires is a big thing because, that creates a lot of animosity in a baseball game quickly. And for youth kids, that's not something they need to look at. Because of travel ball, the way it's become more on the social media side of things,
Mm.
everybody wants their kid to do it. And I don't get me wrong, I want my kids to do it. But I'm also not trying to push my kid into full-on travel baseball until he's ready to compete. I think that's kind of the indicator for if parents listening. When your kid's ready for more competition than what rec ball can give you, then look into travel baseball. But that being said, you have to be willing to want to work with your kid or
Mm.
put him in situations where your kid's going to get a lot of extra work because it takes a lot of work in travel baseball to be good.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to sign up for travel baseball, it's highly competitive. The coaches get after it. The baseball players get after it. If you sign your kid up for travel baseball, but you're not willing to put your kid or let your kid work extra, put in the work, or go to lessons and work on those things you learn at lessons at home, travel baseball will kind of eat you alive. You kind of get at the bottom of the totem pole, and it's no fun. And the part of baseball and youth sports is meant to be around based on fun because you'll see the guys who are really good early in youth sports kind of get burned out towards the
Yeah.
end because they don't progress, and it's because they're not working all the time. But they're also falling out of love with the game because it's not
Yeah.
fun.
Makes me
You've got
tired
to make it
working.
fun.
Back when I played, we got 12 games a year. If you're good, you got a few more with all stars, but really, you're playing way less than 20 games a year. I think players now are playing 50 per season, and
Yeah,
you've got they're good players. They play a lot more than we did, but the danger is they get burned out.
yeah, and that's why you have to. That's why baseball has to be fun.
Yeah,
Because if you play a lot, there is that burnout factor. But if you're having fun playing all the time, then you're not going to get burned out. But a lot of that is also the situation you're in. What atmosphere you're in, what kind of coach do you have, what kind of kids do you play with? Are you playing with your friends? Or are you playing with, kind of what my oldest did with this past year, play with national guys you don't see put on the weekends,
yeah,
guys you don't even hear from until you see them at the next ball field. And, it's the only time you do see them is when you show up to the hotel or the baseball field. And it's different. It's a really different atmosphere. Honestly, it's something. It's not meant for everybody. It's very hard, but it's fun for some kids, and it's not fun for some kids.
yeah,
It was definitely a big life lesson in baseball for my oldest. It was a huge adjustment, but yeah, I think travel ball needs to be a more serious conversation between parents and kids, and but it's kind of like nowadays with school choice. It's so easy if you're not happy with the situation, you can just pick your kid up and leave. And now there's other circumstances of why you're leaving. There's always reasons why you're leaving, but some kids just want to pick up and move schools because, they didn't make a baseball team. Well, there might be a reason why you didn't make the high school baseball team, or there might be a reason why you're not playing for a certain group. Like,
Yeah. So
coaches see. Go ahead.
yeah, on that part of it, because I've had some thoughts on that. I never thought I'd be the guy to like leave a school just for my kid to play baseball, but I've thought about this. If my kid is working hard, he is putting in the work, he is staying up late or getting up early, getting his swings in, and then goes to that high school practice or goes to high school and doesn't make the team. I've got no issues moving him to schools. That's what he wants to do. Now you're right.
100%.
If my kid like is really disappointed that he didn't make the team, but like he really hasn't put the work in, I've had to drag him to workouts. I've had to drag him to practice, but he's just embarrassed that he got cut. Like I probably wouldn't transfer. But if he's like putting in the work and maybe it's just a really deep class, maybe he's a little undersized, and he wants to do more, like because think about it, like the Heisman winners. How many of those guys transferred schools?
Oh,
Again,
almost all of them now.
Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, Joe Burrow, all those were transfers that we wouldn't get to play at one school, and then I transferred to the right situation. They were the best player in the nation.
Right.
And
And
I know there's a coach I know from Mayflower. He said every year they would get people from Conway that didn't make the team. He'd put them at Mayflower, and by the time they're done, they went to college to play baseball some more.
yeah, and sometimes situations like, so our kids go to big schools, like
Yeah,
the big classifications in Arkansas. And sometimes certain kids aren't meant to be in that big classification of baseball yet.
yeah,
Doesn't mean they're not worthy of playing there yet. It's just they haven't got to that point where they can play in that classification. So
yeah,
I agree with swapping schools. If your kid's wanting to continue to put in work, does put in work, to go into maybe a smaller school that's local or close by.
yeah.
I know not all kids have that option,
Hmm.
but being a more metropolitan area that we are, we have options to go to smaller schools. Your kid's probably going to make that team, but will excel faster. And it's a lot of it's putting your kid in a situation where they're going to excel and succeed. Um, and every parent has to make that decision, with their kid on what's best. What's best for this child, what they want to do with sports, if sports is a
Hmm.
long-term goal, or if it's just something they want to, do for baseball. But I've learned too with this is each time you step up a ranking system or
A
to the
level maybe. Yeah,
next level, it's you better love the game because it is a lot of work to stay competitive. And I wouldn't say stay on top because no one really stays on top all the time. As you see, you have new champions every year, or take the Yankees. They dominated for years and now they struggle. Um, but you have to love the game because it's a lot of work to stay competitive. It's a ton of work. It's a lot of time on the parents, and a lot of time on the kids.
yeah. And like I think some kids are in the travel wall because they love the camaraderie. They love the notoriety of having nine other kids at school that y'all get to wear jerseys and be the cool kids, or
Yep.
you love winning. Your team's good and you win a lot, but baseball is just a means to get you there. And like that's nothing wrong with that at the younger levels. But I guess what we're saying is there's going to come time when you're having to make sacrifices to chase this thing you love. And if you don't love it, like you're not going to make those sacrifices. And baseball is good even for that. But um, if you have big dreams, there's going to be times when you say no to go in the party and get your hits in that night. There'll be times when you say no to texting your girlfriend and you've got to go out there and hit for a little while.
Yeah, I agree with that. There's life choices you're going to make. I know some kids that we played with this past year that it's become a more prominent thing. I think me and you discussed it at some point. But
Yeah.
homeschool your kids where they can work on baseball more if the baseball is the dream. Um, and that's a big sacrifice, like you were talking about.
Hmm.
It's a monster sacrifice, honestly, to homeschool your kid and figure out a new lifestyle, basically, because I work outside of baseball. Of course, I've got a full-time job, and volunteer coach. You have a full-time job. You run I mean, you've got a lot more on your plate than I do, but um, it's what's best for your kid and yourself and for the family, and putting yourself in that situation of what's what we're going to do. What's really the end goal, and but with the goals comes a lot of work, and I'm pretty blunt about it with my kids. Like, hey, if this is what you want to do, this is kind of the path you've got to do it. I don't really I don't sugarcoat a lot of things with my kids. I think sugarcoating can lead to a lot more, I wouldn't say disgruntlement, but failures, because you think something's going to be so great, and then all of a sudden, boom, you get hit, and it's not what you thought it was. And so I think just being point blank about it's more realistic.
Yeah. And I think one thing that I've had to realize in the last couple of years, maybe you have too, is like, when the kid's 8, 9, 10, he don't want to go practice, you say, I don't care, get your butt in the car, we're going to practice. But when they get 13 and 14, like, parents realize that you can't do that anymore. Like, go out there and practice. Well, if they don't want to, they're going to give you really bad effort, and it's going to show on every part of their being that they'd rather be anywhere but where they're at right there. And then you're not doing anything by making them go out there and swing the bat. So it's definitely got to be kid driven at that point.
Right.
If not, it's not going to work.
Right. So I ran into that situation. I coached a travel ball independent team, non-affiliated with any facility. And the last year that I did that with my oldest, we butted heads really bad, because we basically never had any time apart from being a dad to being a coach. And it was really hard to separate those things all the time, because if he made me mad in practice because of the effort, we'd get in the car and we wouldn't even speak to each other because we were mad at each other, and it made it really hard on our relationship.
Yeah.
But walking away from that situation, and I didn't break the team up. The team continued on after I left, which was a great thing. But me not being such of a head coach on top of him, and wanting the best, and of course, all dad coaches, I don't care who you are, all dad coaches are harder on their own kid on the baseball team than anybody else.
Yeah.
It's the nature of the beast. You want your kid to succeed and be the best, and you're going to be more driven on your kid. But I've learned from that situation with my oldest that, when I'm head coach, I coach every single kid now the exact same. I'm coaching my kid hard, but I'm coaching the next kid hard, and I expect my assistant coaches to do the same. Like, I don't show favoritism, but it does have to be kid driven. But I think a lot of kid driven stuff comes based on what type of coach you have. If you have a coach who's really relaxed, kind of loosey goosey about everything, and oh, don't worry about it, it's okay, we'll get it next time. It builds that atmosphere and that sense of culture. And I agree with you. Things got to be kid driven once you get to the upper level of youth, or I say upper level, later ages of youth baseball. So 12, 13, 14, that kid has to want to go play baseball, and has to want to work at it. Earlier, you're going to have to, kind of push them a little bit, but once they figure it out, and it's fun all the time, it's a good culture for the kid. And I think you're setting them up for a lot of success in life of how they should go about their own work life later.
Yeah, I mean, my whole life is really impacted by my youth baseball career. And I'll tell parents a lot, like, there are times you guys tell them to get in the car, but some parents are like, well, he wants to do, we want him to do travel ball, they want him to do fall ball too. And I tell them, like, if they're not wanting to do it, like, I wouldn't push them to that. Like, if they're wanting it, help them. There's going to be sometimes in the middle of a fortnight game, and they don't want to get in the car and go to practice. And, like, you've got to say, no, you're going to practice. And that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about, like, are they liking playing this baseball enough to want to do it all the time. If they are, like, let them play all the time. But if they're not, it's just really important, for you because you're worried about opportunities in the future or you want to be in the cool parents club. Like,
Yeah.
I think it's doing more harm than good. But
Yeah. Yeah. There's, so you brought up fall ball real quick there.
mhm.
So I'm a big component of, especially me being a football guy, I'm a big component of whatever's the in-season sport.
Yeah,
That's your number one sport for the times, because you get a lot of kids now playing football and then trying to play baseball at the same time in the fall because they don't want to get left behind in fall ball or get left behind for the next year of spring because they're playing football. I'm a huge component of multi-sport athletes. I think kids early age need to play as many sports as they want to. One, it builds a lot of motor skills in different scenarios. It teaches you how to compete in a lot of different situations,
mhm.
and you build different camaraderies with different kids and different styles. But don't get harped on. I've got to play baseball from January to December at a youth age. You can work on baseball, like we said, 5, 10, 15 minutes a day.
Yeah,
And that's more than enough for a lot of youth kids right now.
yeah,
Because a lot of youth kids don't do that
yeah.
at
I
all.
tell kids, do 5 to 10 minutes. If you want to go more, do more that day, but just make sure you do 5 minutes the next day.
Yep.
Never miss two
And
days in a row.
I think a lot of it's setting goals. That's another big thing. I think is important with kids and parents and coaches is setting goals. Like, hey, have a goal we're going to hit 5 minutes a day, or we're going to throw a baseball 5 minutes every day. And
Mhm.
usually when you start doing that every day, a kid's going to want to do more every day, and it just builds and builds. Now, like I said, don't make it your life unless that's what your kid wants to do is make it their life. Um, but set small goals, and
Yeah.
I think it builds from there.
All right, let me ask you this question. What do you wish parents understood about youth coaches?
We truly love your kids. No matter, I know it seems like we will harp on your kid or we're hard on your kid, but it's because we love your kid. We want your kids to succeed as much as they can.
Hmm.
I'm a big component because I grew up with it of hard coaching. You know,
Yeah.
push yourself, find what your limits are. Don't be afraid to fail, which is a big thing in youth sports, in my opinion. You know, don't be afraid to fail, but let somebody be hard on your kid. It's okay. Um, I have a deal with, kind of with my kids is I'm parent and I am, um, I'll be your best friend outside the fence.
Yeah.
Inside the fence, I'm coach. We're ready to roll. We're gonna practice hard. We're gonna get after it. Um, but parents have to see that. Like, and I've told parents, and I have a very big open communication uh, deal now. Like, look, if you have an issue, let's talk about it. Because I think the worst in youth sports now is a parent didn't like what they saw, but may not understood the entire situation of what they saw. But they don't talk about it. They don't go talk to the coach about it. They don't, and they put this narrative in their head that maybe that the kid is, they're out to get their kid or they don't like their kid. And that's usually the furthest thing from the truth.
Yeah.
Um,
I think the
but,
old adage about, the kid or anyone, but they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
right. Yeah.
If I've noticed,
And
if a kid knows I love them, I can be a lot harder on them.
yeah. And that's a thing that has to be, um, very well communicated to the parents and the kid. Like, look, I'm here to help you to get to the next level. I'm here to teach you the game the best I can to best of my ability. If you have questions, ask. There's not a dumb question in youth sports. There's not. Because
Yeah.
these kids, they're learning the game, and there's a ton to baseball. There's so much to baseball, and I think, and I see it more and more. when these kids are getting into high school, who actually understands baseball more than others because of what kind of culture or atmosphere they grew up in with baseball.
Yeah.
And, I wish there was uh, more seminars for youth coaches, guys who are starting out. Um, and you're an exception because you've been around youth sports for a while, but there's a ton of guys who play college and pro baseball who to me aren't very good youth baseball coaches. They may have all the knowledge in the world, but if they can't get their message through to their players, their knowledge is worthless. Absolutely worthless.
Yeah,
Because
I agree.
if you can't teach it, or if your kid's not retaining what you're trying to teach, then you have to change the way you're teaching. Like as much as a kid has to change the way they play in certain situations, a coach has to learn how to change the way they coach. And I have to coach, honestly, I have to coach 11 different ways because I have 11 different kids on my team. 12 now, but
Yeah.
you have to learn how to teach and coach each individual kid. Now you have your sense of style and the way you do it as a whole, but to me, you have to learn how to coach that kid individually because everybody takes it the way you're coming off on your message differently.
Yeah. And
And
I'll say
so,
this, you
but
mentioned about parents and talking to the coach. Like I would agree, like I hadn't thought about it till now, but there have been 2 times in my career where a parent was angry and came and talked to me about it, and I was like, you know what, you're right. It wasn't fair to your kid. I just got
mhm.
caught up in the game. I wasn't thinking, and I didn't put your kid in the game enough. And I just wasn't thinking. I should have. I didn't realize it's out that much, but you're right. I need to give him opportunities. And like one of those has been like my favorite kid since then. Um, but what I think hurts coaches is when you don't talk to them. But
Yes,
you sit there and talk to your spouse about it all night, and you simmer and get madder and madder about it over something that like he may not even realize he's doing. And he would, if he knew it, he would fix it. He just got caught up in the moment, didn't realize it. And some coaches aren't gonna be humble enough to say they were wrong, but like maybe it's obvious, like it was to me, like he's wrong and needs to make some changes.
Thanks for listening to part 1 of the Salty Sports Podcast with Kyle Bryant. We'll be back next week with part 2.